All right, so we're diving into some pretty weird stuff today. Odd lifts.
Odd lifts?
Yeah, those strength training exercises that you look at and you're like, who thought of this?
Yeah.
And we're going way back in time for our source material here. A 2006 article from the CrossFit Journal.
Wow.
So this is like old school fringe fitness we're talking about.
All right.
Get ready to have your mind blown.
It's going to be interesting, I'm sure.
What's fascinating to me is that there's a whole organization dedicated to these odd lifts. The USAWIA, the United States All-Around Weightlifting Association. They actually have competitions centered around this stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting idea, right? Because there's only so much you can do with like how much weight you can lift.
Right.
But when you start looking at like how you lift it and the different challenges that these odd lifts present, it just opens up this whole new realm of like strength expression, I guess you could say.
And the names alone are enough to make you wonder what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Like the Inman Mile, you walk a mile carrying 150% of your body weight.
A mile.
A mile. They even say refreshments are allowed.
Yeah.
I guess you'd need them.
Yeah, that really highlights the emphasis on functional strength in these odd lifts.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about isolating muscles in a gym setting. It's about preparing your body for the demands of real life.
Real life stuff.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Carrying heavy objects for a distance, that's something you might encounter in everyday life.
That's true.
Groceries, furniture, kids.
Then there's the Roman chair bench press. Try doing a bench press while basically hanging upside down.
Yeah, that one's interesting because it really forces you to engage your whole core to maintain balance and control the weight, right?
Yeah.
Unlike a traditional bench press where you're lying flat on your back, the Roman chair bench press forces you to really think about those stabilizing muscles that often get neglected.
And if you thought that was weird, how about the two-person cheat curl? So you need a buddy to help you curl.
I like that one.
You need a friend.
Yeah. It's a cool take on the idea of teamwork in strength training.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual effort. It's about coordinating your movements with a partner.
Right.
To achieve a common goal.
I know some of these names probably sound a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But stick with us. We're going to break them down and look at what makes them so unique. Up next, we've got lifts that look like they belong on a construction site and others that are so intense you might get kicked out of your gym for trying them.
Right.
Stay tuned.
I'm ready. Welcome back.
All right, so we've talked about a few of these odd lifts, but let's get down to brass tacks here. What are the potential benefits of all this?
Right.
Because honestly, some of these look like they belong in a circus.
I think that's where the surprise comes in, though, because a lot of these lifts are actually surprisingly functional. Like they mimic movements we make in everyday life.
Really?
Which can translate to real-world strength and coordination.
Give me an example, because like that Inman Mile thing, walking a mile with all that extra weight sounds brutal, but how does that actually help you in real life?
Think about carrying groceries, moving furniture, or even just playing with your kids.
Okay.
All those activities require you to move your body and support weight in ways that your typical gym exercises just don't prepare you for.
So it's not just about building muscle, it's about building functional strength that you can actually use.
Exactly. And then you've got lifts like the Steinborn lift.
Okay.
So picture this. You're standing a loaded barbell on end. You squat down with it against your body, and then you kind of maneuver it up to your shoulder.
That sounds complicated.
It's a little bit tricky.
And kind of dangerous.
Yeah, definitely requires careful technique.
Yeah.
But think about the movements involved. You're lifting a heavy object from the ground, you're pivoting, and then you're standing up with it.
Okay.
Those are movements you might see on a construction site or even just when you're rearranging furniture in your home.
Interesting. So it's like practicing for real life.
Exactly.
Those awkward, heavy lifting moments we all have.
And then there's the Continental Clean.
Okay.
This one throws the rule book out the window. You can use any body part you want to get that weight up and ease, but anything goes.
Really?
As long as you don't stand the barbell on end.
Sounds like a free-for-all.
It is a little bit of a free-for-all, but what's cool about it is that it forces you to find the most efficient way to move your body.
I see.
You're not restricted by traditional lifting techniques, so you have to experiment and figure out what works best for you.
So it's like a puzzle you have to solve with your body.
Exactly. And in the process, you might discover new movement patterns or strengths you didn't even know you had.
That's pretty cool.
And not all of these lifts are about brute strength and crazy movements. Some of them, like the repetition snatches, cleans, and jerks with body weight, they turn those classic Olympic lifts into intense cardio workouts.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're talking high intensity.
High intensity.
Full body movement.
Get that heart rate up.
Forget the treadmill. This is way more challenging.
Yeah.
You're engaging multiple muscle groups, working on explosiveness, and pushing your cardio limits all at the same time. And I bet you build some serious core strength with those too.
Oh, absolutely. Holding those positions, maintaining balance with each rep.
Yeah.
It's a full body workout disguised as cardio.
And then the article also talked about neurological benefits, especially with the one-handed lifts,
Yeah.
like the snatch and the clean and jerk.
Right.
Now, I've heard that using one hand forces your brain to work harder, but how does that actually translate into real-world benefits?
It's all about challenging your nervous system.
Oh.
When you perform one-handed lifts, your brain has to coordinate more muscle activity to maintain balance and stability, and this can lead to improvements in coordination balance and overall movement efficiency.
So it's like a brain workout and a muscle workout at the same time.
Exactly.
I like it. Now, I know we're going pretty deep into the weeds here, and I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking,
Yeah.
okay, these sound interesting, but are they really practical for the average person?
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Not everyone has access to specialized equipment or a coach who knows how to teach these lifts. But even if you don't plan on competing in a USO event, there are still ways to incorporate elements of these odd lifts into your current routine.
Really? So we can learn something from these unconventional exercises.
Absolutely.
And apply it to our own workouts.
In the next part, let's explore some specific examples of how these odd lifts can be modified or integrated into a more conventional training program.
All right, so we've gone through a whole bunch of these odd lifts, and some of them are pretty out there.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides to all this?
Well, I mean, as with any form of exercise, there are always risks, right? Especially when we're talking about these unconventional movements that put stress on the body in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, think about that Roman chair bench press we were talking about. Balancing on that thing while pressing weight overhead sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And that brings up one of the key risks with these odd lifts. The potential for injury is definitely higher, especially if you're not familiar with the movements or you haven't mastered the technique.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
The article really stressed, starting with light weights, and for good reason.
Yeah.
It's not just about being cautious, it's about being safe.
So form over ego, right?
Absolutely.
Don't try to lift heavy just because you want to impress someone.
Yeah, it's tempting to jump right in and go for those big numbers,
Yeah.
but with these odd lifts, it's even more important to focus on technique.
And it's not just about strength either, right? Some of these lifts require a lot of mobility and flexibility.
Definitely.
Like that wrestler's bridge pullover and press. You need to be pretty flexible to even attempt that one.
Yeah, you need some serious shoulder and back flexibility for that one.
So I'm starting to think that these odd lifts might not be for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're not already pretty mobile and flexible, you could get injured just trying to get into the starting position for some of these exercises.
And what about overtraining some of these lifts? Like those repetition snatches and cleans sound really intense.
Yeah, those high-intensity repetitive lifts can definitely be tough on your body.
Yeah.
You could risk burnout or injury if you push yourself too far.
So moderation is key. Listen to your body.
Absolutely.
Don't try to be a hero.
And I can't stress enough the importance of getting guidance from a coach or trainer who knows what they're doing, especially with these unconventional movements.
Yeah.
They can teach you the proper technique, make sure you're doing it right, and help you adjust the lifts to your own needs and capabilities.
That's great advice. So even though there are some risks we've talked about, there are also some unique benefits that these odd lifts can offer. They're not for everyone.
Right.
But if you're willing to put in the work and approach them safely,
Yeah.
these odd lifts can really change the way you think about strength training.
They force us to think outside the box, explore new movements, and develop functional strength that we can actually use in real life.
It's like bringing back the fun and the challenge to our workouts.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of odd lifts, I think the main takeaway is this. They offer a fresh perspective on strength training.
Absolutely.
They're not a quick fix or a magic bullet.
Nope.
You got to approach them with caution, respect your limitations, and prioritize good form above all else.
Couldn't agree more.
But don't be afraid to experiment, have fun, and see how these unusual exercises can challenge you in new ways.
The world of fitness is always changing.
Yeah.
There's always something new to learn and try.
That's what keeps things interesting.
Exactly.
So keep an open mind, keep learning, keep pushing your limits safely, of course.
Safely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.